All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. Today we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, the US Open of golf that is upcoming. Quick little look at Euro 2024 and a brief mention of Stanley Cup Finals. A little bit difficult to talk about that one given that Game 2 will have happened before we know about it now, and you will know about it by the time you're listening to this. But before we get to the finals, Drew, any quick thoughts about the weekend, about the Belmont, and about the French Open?
Well, the Belmont was interesting. Looked like fun being at the Spa. It didn't have any winning horse racing tips for me or anyone I knew that, except for one of our friends hit a couple of big winners. Hat tip to Brinks, who had the exacta in the Belmont, which paid something like 163 to 1. Dornoch was a huge shocker there, and really, I think the shorter Belmont, a mile and a quarter instead of a mile and a half, and the jockey change for Sierra Leone probably cost him that race. Jockey did not have Sierra Leone in very good position to make his good sustained run down the home stretch. A little bit of a crowded knocking, going on coming up the last turn as well, which really hurt him. And Dornoch was on the pace early and held on for a win. It was a tremendous run, and good finish with the Bob. The real horse that stole the show in Saratoga, though, was Torpedo Anna in the Acorn. Holy smokes. Torpedo Anna was just truly dominant in that race. And honestly, I wonder if the connections there kind of regretting not running her in the Belmont, because probably would have won. So interesting weekend of racing, but overall not a profitable one for me.
Okay, well, that's okay, Drew. So you can get back on the horse. How did Paris go better? Did Roland Garros deliver some better results?
Well, Eagle won. Did you see that? Surprise.
Wasn't much
no, blinked and you missed it. The women's final, because it was one-way traffic. And yeah, that was a great result. Had a lot of stuff tied to Iga winning the French Open, as is the tradition now in the spring is you take prices when they're available, knowing you're not ever going to get that either in match or match by match, or in the futures pool when the French Open started. So I had a lot of equity tied up in Iga, and that was a huge win. Casper Ruud not so good in the semifinal. He had a touch of what was going around at Roland Garros, which was a stomach bug flu type of thing that really kind of took him out of that match with Zverev in the semifinals. And on the men's side, I mean, I care for the sport of tennis a lot. I'd like to see the sport of tennis kind of good things happen and, continue to grow the game. And in that regard, the Alcaraz win at the French Open was phenomenally good and important and huge. He is a very, very easy player to cheer for. There's not a lot of kind things I have to say about Sasha Zverev, but it was a hero over villain type of a triumph for Alcaraz in the men's final. And what was especially impressive about it was like he looks like he's at maybe 70-ish% of where he was at his peak last year on clay in terms of form. And to be able to win the French Open with, what looks to be your C game, maybe your D game, is like wildly impressive. His match against Jannik Sinner went 5. He comes through in 5. His match against Zverev went 5. He comes through in 5. Like, it's not easy to do, particularly as a young man in tennis. And, he is now going to be your presumptive favorite for French Opens for years to come, as long as he remains healthy. And he is an Australian Open away from completing the youngest ever career Grand Slam. And actually, by my math, I think he has 2 or 3 opportunities to win the Australian Open and set that record, which is currently held by Rafa Nadal. So, he's rewriting history before our eyes, and he's a joy to watch and a joy to listen to and an easy guy to root for. So could not be happier about all of that. And there's going to be a lot of people that are counting on him to defend his title at Wimbledon. I'm sure he's the odds-on favorite right now, and I am not there yet. Again, I'm still seeing a guy who's playing at about 70-75% of his peak form from last summer. And that may be good enough to win Wimbledon, but I think, put an informed Sinner in another semifinal against him. Sinner, who's now the world number 1 and will have the top seed at Wimbledon. And I think that's where my pick would, that's where, top of my odds board would start. A lot of really good, grasp specialists who we haven't seen play a ton of tennis lately, who are going to have opportunities to knock out an Alcaraz. But it's Wimbledon should be phenomenal, and then we are back on the Roland Garros clay for the Olympics.
Yeah, I think with Alcaraz, won a kind of stunning third set where, what was he up 5-2 in the third set, and then just completely unraveled against Zverev. And then it seemed like in the fourth and fifth set, he was largely just, he's playing within himself and was able to do just enough. And then Zverev just melted in the first game, he got broken in the fifth, just like regulation volleys that he's missing, double faults. Seems like he got really tight. But at the same time, I think Alcaraz had, immediately after he broke Zverev, Alcaraz had a very suspect line call that goes his way on break point, and that should have been the game to Zverev. And if he gets that, then all of a sudden it's game on again. But ultimately, I think like Zverev, he lost the fourth and fifth sets 6-1, 6-2, and he melted. So can't feel too bad for the man on a number of fronts, really. All right, let's jump to the NBA Finals. Just got off a train from Boston, coming back home. Was in the building for game two. It was epic atmosphere at TD Garden. It was an extremely tense game. I think a game that was more so than good play or clean play or shots being made was defined by tension. It was one of those games where until really the clock hits zero in the fourth quarter, there is no catharsis, as Patrick Bateman said in American Psycho once upon a time. And it was just constant, just cascading of tension. And the only real release point was when Peyton Pritchard hit the three at the buzzer to end the third quarter. As we were talking about before, Peyton Pritchard's lone points in the NBA Finals to date. But the whole time, it felt like to me, it felt a lot like Nuggets Heat last year, where even though the game is kind of close and the Heat are kind of hanging around, it just never felt like they were fully in it. And it felt like if they were going to win, it was going to be largely by shooting luck, if that were to turn. And it just felt like, much like the Nuggets last year, just feels like Boston just have all the advantages and they're just pressing those advantages, and sometimes the shots won't fall and that'll lead to a closer game. But it is very hard to construct without injuries in this series, and we may have one with Porzingis. We'll talk about that. It feels very difficult to construct a path now for Dallas to win 4 out of 5. But what do you think of the series?
Yeah. Well, game one was kind of the way we expected in terms of the math advantage that the Celtics have. And it bore out in just an unbelievably lopsided 3-point attempt count that you look at just that number and you're like, Mavericks are in deep trouble here. They didn't really do much to absolve that in game two. The shooting is still quite poor from them. But the key is it's all, the Celtics are only letting them have above the break stuff. And the Mavericks don't really have the shooters to make those shots consistently. The Celtics are taking away corner threes, which is exactly what they want to do. Plan A defensively. They're playing great team defense overall. The fact that they can use Tatum as the center on defense is just unbelievable to me. And it's extremely effective against this unit in particular. I didn't really even see very much or any interest or even need for the Celtics to put 2 on Luka, which just makes them very, very tough to beat. And I thought that if you look at, Celtics were going to have a bad shooting night at some point in this series, and they had it yesterday, and then Mavericks still lose by 7. That's bad. That's a problem. I don't know how this was your game. Like, this was your opportunity to steal one. And put yourself in this series, and you couldn't do it. And I think maybe Luka's injury kind of limited him a bit in the down the stretch, as opposed to where he was so effective early in the contest. But I was pretty satisfied with the effort we got from the C's, and their ability to be so productive in the paint has been a surprise to the good. And if they are continuing to outshoot or just get more 3-pointers up, throughout the duration of this series, then they're not long. The Mavs are not long for this one. My current price for game 3 and 4 is around to pick 'em. I have the Celtics right now minus 1380 to win the title, having locked in these first 2 wins. My most likely outcome from this point forward is Boston in 5, which I have 35% chance of happening. I have sweep at 29.4% chance of happening. So this is exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of an outcome so far for me, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, the Mavs have opened 2-point favorites in game 3. Obviously, a lot of zigzag at work there. And also some uncertainty over Kristaps Porzingis and whether he will go. I suspect he will, just because the injury was to his other leg, and the fact that he was able to, he was still out there running around. Didn't look great, but he's still out there running, and they played it down after the game. So I suspect he'll probably be okay if somewhat limited. A few things from the game. One, Luka. So with Luka's assortment of injuries at this point, alleged injuries, so there's this clip that kind of went viral of him kind of walking into the arena like with the gait of a 85-year-old man. And so I see that on Twitter, and then I see him 12 meters in front of me in shoot around doing like full court sprints uninhibited. Like, I don't, but at the same time, and like he didn't look like he's not limping around out there. Like there was stuff in like game 2, first half against Minnesota, he was visibly limping on the court. He was not limping around in this game. But the thing that I think is more to the point with Luka that is ailing him is that he is so exhausted. And that was something I noticed, like sitting very close to the Mavs bench. Like when he comes out, he has nothing in the tank. He is so tired because they're going at him every possession on defense. He is not getting like any easy stuff in terms of like they're very rarely blitzing him. They're only blitzing him if it's Porzingis, who is on a switch on Luka. And so he just doesn't get any easy possessions. Like he has to work and work and work for every single shot that he gets. And I think he made a disproportionate amount of his long twos in this one. And so if anything, that may regress. It's just so much work for him. And he is getting completely cooked on defense, which leads me into my next point, that I think the discourse around Tatum and Luka in this series is both interesting and stupid, in that you look at Luka's counting stats and they look fine. He looks like, Luka Doncic statistically, but what doesn't show up and what people are not focusing on nearly enough is that he is a massive defensive liability in this series. And it's not just that he's getting cooked in ISO by Tatum and Brown every single time where they're just getting by him and he's compromising the defense. And he is the main reason why Boston are generating all these open threes, is because he can't stay in front of these guys. But the second thing too is Boston, I think Joe Mazzulla, who hopefully will kind of get his credit if they win this series, at last get his credit. He has been very smart in putting Luka and Kyrie, manufacturing the spacing so that those two guys are the low men and that they are the rim protectors. And Luka offers nothing as a rim protector, despite being 6'7", 6'8", whatever he is. And so he is just getting eviscerated on that end of the court, which people don't focus on because he just has the counting stats. Meanwhile, Tatum, who I understand why people don't like Jason Tatum, because he is the best player on a team that at points of each of the past 3 seasons has been the title favorite. And so just by virtue of that, people kind of attach expectations of being like a top 2-3 player in the league. And he's just not quite that level of player. He is the 5th or the 6th or the 7th best player in the league. And yeah, he's not having a great series because his shooting is abominable. But just watching, like, just watch the game. Like, look at what he is doing. He is everything for their offense. Like, yeah, they have great shooters, and Drew Holiday scores 26. Why does Drew Holiday score 26 points? Because Jason Tatum has 2 players on him, and Tatum is passing the ball to Holiday to get layups and open threes. Like, the sun is orbiting around Jason Tatum in this offense. Like, he is the guy who is most responsible for their offensive success, even when he is not scoring. The playmaking has been phenomenal. It's been better than Luka's at this point. And also the whole reason why Dallas's offense is so in the mud is because Jason Tatum is a perimeter superstar who can also play center. And it is mucking up everything that they do because they can't play 2-on-2 with the lob man as they were able to in the previous 2 series, because Jason Tatum is so diverse in his skill set that he can just play center and switch onto Doncic, can switch onto Irving, and can also box out and keep Derek Lively off the offensive glass. And those things people just don't focus on because he's missing shots.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I'll leave the discourse alone, though, man. Let it be wrong and stupid. Because the Celtics are dogs on the road when they should be a pick 'em, and I'm fine with that. So, honestly, like, there was points in the game yesterday where Celtics were down early. The Mavericks got out to a nice start. I think the biggest margin was, 7-ish points or something like that. And even to that point, like, just no panic at all watching as a backer. It's because, like, every look they were getting on offense, you're like, yes, that's the right look. That's the right look. That's a good look. That's a good look. Like, just consistently down every time down the court. It was just like these guys are generating higher likelihood offensive opportunities consistently. And there's just only so much time you can hold that off. And the Mavericks couldn't hold it off for a full game, largely because they couldn't find their own shots. And I mean, it was a weird game too overall, but the team defense and specifically Tatum's role on this defense for this matchup seems absolutely perfect. And anybody focusing on, well, Kyrie Irving had another bad game. Well, Luka's, like the fact that they're not focusing on how Luka's defense is such a significant issue is surprising and lazy, and people being box score reliant in terms of analysis, as opposed to, kind of looking a little bit deeper in terms of what's going on with these matchups. But I mean, Holiday had his opportunity in game 2. We'll probably have a Derek White game. We had a Porzingis game in game 1. We'll probably have a Jaylen Brown game, and then that might be the series. So I'm enjoying it.
Yep. Last thing on this one, I think a team is in trouble or close to being checkmated when they just start throwing random stuff at the wall. Kidd in the first half was playing Maxi Kleber at the 5. Okay, well, that doesn't work because now the Celtics are just getting whatever they want at the rim, and Kleber doesn't actually give you 5-out spacing because he can't shoot at the moment. And then right after that, they go Kleber at the 4 next to Derek Lively. So completely going 180 from playing as small as possible to as big as possible. One of the key adjustments for Kidd coming out of halftime was posting up Daniel Gafford. And if that is like the move against the 64 win plus 12 net rating Boston Celtics to post up Daniel Gafford more, then I think you're in trouble. And so, look, it's not 99%. Like, series isn't done. It could still change, but it's so hard for Dallas, I think, to create the shooting variance they need to be able to kind of luck their way to a series win, which I think it would take, given that they're at a talent deficit. If I was them, honestly, the one thing they haven't done yet, and what I would try, is just play PJ Washington at the 5. Like, you're not getting any, like, the defense is getting cooked, whatever you do anyway. So I think you just have to go all out. And he's like going to give you more actual spacing than Maxi. And then it's like, you have him next to Jones Jr. at the 4, and then the 3-man next to Luka and Kyrie has to be like, whether you unearth Hardaway just because he can be a 3-point shooter, maybe a bit of Exum, who looks a little bit better than some of their other role players in this series. But I mean,
Hardy, maybe.
I can't do Jaden Hardy.
The answers are all terrible.
I know, that's the
all, yeah.
Talking about this with the friends, like, all these answers, like, is the answer really play more Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dante Exum against, like, the guys for the Celtics in those roles are literally Drew Holiday and Derek White. So they're in some trouble. Yeah. Last thing before we move off of the NBA, finals MVP market. Tatum is even money. Jaylen Brown is plus 185. Doncic is effectively the Mavs series price. And then Drew Holiday is plus 850. If I were, like, my handicap of this market is, as much as I like Jason Tatum, and I think he is the best and most valuable player on the Celtics by margin, I think people are desperate not to vote for him. And I think that they will have an out to do that because voters really overvalue just kind of shooting splits, and his shooting splits are atrocious. And I get that he has the volume, rebounding and assist numbers, but people are going to minimize that, and they're going to focus on the fact that like he has an uphill battle now to even shoot like 40% from the floor for the series. So I think Jaylen Brown should be the favorite in this market. I'd start Tatum second, but Brown, I think, is just kind of cleaner because he's shooting 56% from the floor. He's been incredible on defense. He's averaging like 21 a game. His assist numbers are fine. I think he is the cleanest candidate at the moment. And even though Tatum, like if you started the series again today, I'd make Tatum the heavy favorite, but I think he's dug himself a pretty big hole. So I think Brown should be the favorite, and I think Drew Holiday, his price is too long as well because he has all the narrative in the world because he's defending Kyrie and Luka. His shooting splits are like, I think it's like 67, 44, 100 or something like that. Like it's insane. And he is going to continue to get fairly good shots, I think, because of all the attention that Jason Tatum garners. So I think that at current prices, Brown and Holiday are both bets. And I'd love to get a no price on Tatum on the other side of 100.
So I could tell you, I had similar thoughts of very cool on Tatum at price, but didn't have the other side of the coin. I kind of a little cool on Brown. Holiday was the most interesting to me. I guess the question I have for you is if this is a short series, if it's 4 or 5, and that does play a role in how deep a hole Tatum has found himself in through 2. But if the Mavericks have to find ways to get more offense going and put, PJ Washington as the 5 and more Tim Hardaway Jr., which I think is probably likely, it makes the over in game 3 pretty tasty. But that really opens the door wide open for Tatum. Like he should have an explosion, he could have an explosive offensive performance if that's the matchup they end up, that's the lineup they end up rolling out there through majority stretches of the game. So I don't know. I think it's a little too early to kind of put a stake in him, but I agree plus 100 is a bad number. And I kind of am inclined to take a price on Holiday, even though we've gotten our best Holiday game of the series probably in game 2.
Yeah. The thing with Tatum too is that I think Kyrie is just getting bad shots in this series, and he'll probably shoot a bit better, but I don't think he's just going to explode for 35-point games when he's being, gloved by Drew Holiday and Derek White and Jaylen Brown. It's just a really hard matchup for Kyrie. With Tatum, I feel like he is getting good shots and he's just missing them at the moment. He's just flubbing layups. He's missing wide open threes. He's taking a few bad shots. He's not perfect. The process isn't perfect for him. I think it's pretty good, but he's taking 2-3 bad step backs over the center per game. But for the most part, the shots should just fall. And having watched a lot of this Boston team over the past really 6 years, it is incredible how much better Tatum and Brown, both of them, have gotten at both playing faster and also everything slowing down for them at the same time. Comparing what Tatum and Brown were doing against, particularly Tatum, what he was doing against the Warriors 2 years ago, just driving into limbs without a plan. Now he is driving into limbs with a plan, with very kind of clear ideas in his head of all right, if I see kind of this, I'm going to go up and try and finish. And if I see something else, then I know where the shooters are on the floor. And a lot of that is that it's very easy for these guys because they're surrounded by 40% three-point shooters. So the floor is just kind of unfairly spaced, but they've both gotten significantly better. Jaylen Brown, whereas he was, dribbling the ball off his foot in these Miami conference finals, just seeing him kind of change pace, play under control. His handle is never going to be perfect, but it's gotten better. He's not just flying into the rim. He's kind of he's doing Luka-ish stuff where he is, stopping on a dime and then just taking an uncontested layup, even though there's 2 guys around him because they're off balance and he's on balance. So it has been nice to see these guys grow. And hopefully for our purposes, they can grow all the way into an 18th banner, which they should, but the job's not done yet. All right. Pinehurst, number 2. hosts the best golfers on the planet for this year's US Open. Find out if Scottie Scheffler or Rory McIlroy can break through this year after top 3 finishes in 2023. It's 124th US Open, Thursday through Sunday on NBC USA and streaming on Peacock, where myself and Trey Wingo will be hosting US Open All Access on Peacock from 7:30 to 5 on Thursday and Friday.
All right.
Chatting a lot of golf ball. And anyway, let's get into that now. What is your breakdown, Drew, early on of the US Open, particularly of the course? And is there anyone that you like at current price?
So if you didn't already know, it's at Pinehurst No. 2, which is, I don't know, it's one of my favorite of the U.S. Open locations. I obviously have a soft spot for North Carolina, lived there for several years. And in general, that little portion of the state is cool, and you can go down and play all these courses, which is kind of makes it a little bit more accessible to the your average golf fan. It's a very tough course. There are it's kind of perfect hand in glove as well with the way the U.S. Opens. They traditionally like to make these especially tough, where a score under par is good enough to be in contention, if not win. And Pinehurst plays exactly into that type of challenge. Amazingly, only 4 golfers have finished under par at the 3 U.S. Opens that they have played at Pinehurst, which I think speaks to that. And this is kind of the ultimate test for Mr. Scottie Scheffler, who's having the best, or if not the best, top 5 clearly season of all time just in terms of the number of championships he's taken down and the degree to which he's making it look effortless. Like, in the same kind of context of, it was even more impressive for Alcaraz to win the French Open with 75% of his game. I felt like that was Scheffler this weekend. Like, it didn't really feel like he was dialed in at Memorial and nobody could run him down. The fact that he's currently short of 4-1 to win this tournament is amazing to me, considering how good this field is. But I think it's right. I don't think it's wise to take a strong stand against him. I think the Schauffele price, considering he's your reigning PGA champion, and he's had a little bit of a career exhale, it has felt like, in the wake of finally breaking through and winning a major. So I think in general, he's an easy one to put a line through at 11-1. McIlroy similarly at 12-1. I know he's showing some improvement, that he's building into a better place in terms of his current state of form, but 12-1 is not enough to get involved there. So I'm looking down the board a little bit here and trying to find some guys that have a little bit more price. The clear and obvious ones that stick out to me are Matsuyama at 40-1. Does not look right. I think he should be closer to 35. And then way down the board, not exactly sure why Jordan Spieth is 66-1. And that, maybe it's a matter of his game not fitting especially well with what Pinehurst demands. But there's not a huge margin between him and the likes of the Abe Obergs of the world, who are 20-1. So that's a pretty appealing price for Spieth, and maybe the best you're ever going to get. Shane Lowry also popped for me at 66-1. I think he is playing well enough right now, particularly looking at what he did on Saturday at the PGA Championship, and thinking about if you can take that mentality into this tournament, he should be able to put together some solid rounds of golf. But overall, I have a relatively weak appetite to bet this event because of what Scottie Scheffler's doing.
Yeah, that's fair. I think with Spieth, it's one of those prices that just kind of leaps off the board. Like, should Jordan Spieth ever be 66-1? It's kind of like a couple years ago when Brooks Koepka and ironically Jordan Spieth were going off at like 50-1 for the PGA Championship. It was the year that Koepka finished second behind Phil Mickelson. But yeah, 66-1 on Spieth. Now, his form is atrocious, and that's why he is 66-1. But he missed the cut at the Memorial. He hasn't finished top 25 for a long time, going back to the Valero Texas Open, which he always seems to do well at, where he finished T10. But he does, like earlier in the year at the Phoenix Open, Century, he was playing better. I think the thing, if you want to build optimism about Spieth, is that he has been great off the tee consistently, even through this slump, but he's falling apart mostly with his putting, which has long been strength of his game and is something that, if you want to bank on something just kind of magically coming back in a given week, well, it's absolutely putting, because that's by far the most variable week-to-week skill, and the most stable skill is what you're doing off the tee, and what he's been doing off the tee has been pretty good. Is there anything about the course in particular that you think plays to anyone's strengths? I know that it's not like a extremely pronounced course in terms of strengths that resonate, outside of it, being a US Open course that's always going to reward distance.
Yeah, no, I would just kind of point to people are going to bring up bogey avoidance and things like that, and I don't see it that way.
To avoid bogeys.
Yeah. It is good. Yeah, it's generally good, but I don't see this as the type of event where you're going to really that's a huge aspect of the way you need to play this course. I think, honestly, just to get hot. And to that degree, a player who has a bigger delta, bigger sigma uncertainty bands are a little wider on shot to shot for a player like Spieth, I think plays into a course like this. He may ultimately not make the cut, sure. But, a guy that has elite shot making ability and, can do kind of approach this creatively, I think is kind of what really kind of speaks to me about his price and his potential, the market being dead asleep on him. With all courses, distance matters, approach matters. And just in general at Pinehurst, scrambling, not so much. Not a course where you really need to be able to execute well around the green. And, a player we haven't mentioned who does usually get a little bit of a downgrade for me because of his inability to scramble is Hovland. And I think Hovland is going to be a pretty popular pick among a lot of the professionals who are betting this weekend.
Okay. Victor Hovland, your time is now. All right. Don't miss the ultimate tryouts for a chance to represent the United States at the Olympic and Paralympic Games from June 15th to 30th. Noah Lyles, Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky, and more of America's best athletes compete for a spot on Team USA in Paris. Watch our country's brightest stars continue their quest for gold on Peacock and NBC. All right. Close out with a little Stanley Cup and Euro 2024 chatter. As mentioned, difficult to chat about the Stanley Cup given that Game 2 is about to transpire and we don't yet know the result. Regardless, I do think, and we'll see how the game plays out, but I think these two teams are very evenly matched, and I would expect somewhat of a long series. I think the Game 1 stuff that is really interesting is, like, if you look at like Money Puck, it's like the Oilers deserve to win meter was like 92% because they just dominated the shot count. And listening to some NHL content around that, particularly the PDO cast by we're not quite buddies, but acquaintance of mine, Dimitri. He made some really good points that a lot of that was somewhat by design by the Panthers, in that just in terms of the way that they are trying to contain McDavid is to throw like 3 different layers at him that he has to go through. And a product of that is that the Oilers are going to get a lot of shots from other players and relatively savable shots. And the Panthers definitely got very lucky in Game 1. Like, there's no way they should have had a shutout there. They should have given up multiple goals, but it's probably not as lopsided as it felt like on the shot count. But how are you feeling about your Oilers?
Well, I was extremely annoyed how lucky the Panthers were in Game 1. There were several moments where I stood up off the couch and I was like, yes, here we go. We're in it. And no, it was very frustrating as an Oilers backer. And I think the degree, your kind of explanation, I had not read that, I had not thought through that, but that does make perfect sense because I was wrestling with the idea of, did I broadly underrate Bobrovsky here? Like, is he much better than I realized? And yeah, I think he's good, but I think your point is fair in that the way that the Panthers defended and dictated who was shooting was maybe more of the secret sauce there. But yeah, the Oilers had more talented skaters. They should be able to come up with some adjustments here, and they should still be able to make this a series. I don't know that we're going to have a strong sense of which way this is going to break until somebody loses on their home ice.
Yep, and we'll talk about it in more detail after we know the game 2 results. All right, before we close out Euro 2024, which is around the corner, Drew, the magnificent tournament, won the previous iteration, hold very close and dear to my heart, with this rort on my boy Pedri winning young player of the tournament, which went down incredibly well. I was actually in Milwaukee for game 3 of the 2021 finals at a brewery, watching on my phone the final of that one where Donnarumma plays hero, and I had a big bet on Pedri to win young player of the tournament. Donnarumma also a candidate for young player of the tournament that go around, and Donnarumma is the hero in the final, beats England, makes penalty saves that give Italy the cup, and yet he wins player of the tournament, Donnarumma, yet does not win young player of the tournament, which goes to Pedri, which is absolutely magnificent and completely baffling that someone eligible for young player of the tournament can be the whole player of the whole tournament, all ages, and yet not young player of the tournament. Just one of the most insane awards outcomes, and one that, frankly, I couldn't be more thankful for. But anyway, the 2024 edition, your favorites, England are the favorite, which is unique given they haven't won anything and going on 60 years. They are plus 350. France, perennial contenders, dating back to winning the World Cup in 2018. They are 4-1. Germany plus 550. Portugal 7-1. Spain plus 750. That's effectively your top tier before you get into longer prices in Italy, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Do you have any bets on the Euros, Drew?
I do have a couple. It's an interesting, I guess, a couple things to note. Italy have qualified. Oh, good. There's been a lot of not qualifying from Italy lately, but they will be here to defend their Euro 2020. Was it 2020 or did they rename it 2021?
Technically, they still called it Euro 2020.
They still called it
played, to my point, in 2021 in game 3 of the NBA Finals. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, good that they're here to defend. And in general, like their style of soccer is, is kind of perfect for tournaments like this. It's not as good for just international qualifying and just outside of the tournament setting. Germany, very obvious and likely Group A winner. The hosts, home, and just in general home. I guess home field it matters a ton in Euro and historically, and I would make them the favorite to win this tournament, not England. I would have France as the second choice, very narrowly behind Germany here, and I would have England as the third choice. I'm kind of shocked that England is the top choice on the board, and this is again like head scratching. This is a good market. This is worldwide input. Like this shouldn't be a wrong price, but I do not see what apparently the entire rest of the market sees with England. Either, their Group C is weak, sure, but their path once they qualify does not necessarily lend themselves to an easy walk to a final at all. So it's going to be tough for me to see any fair price on England this entire fortnight, likely. The Spain, Italy, Croatia Group B is going to be amazing. Every one of those clashes between Spain, Italy, Croatia, Spain are going to be must watch in the group stages. I cannot wait for that. Similarly, France, Netherlands is going to be an incredible group match that I'm very excited for. I have some bets on Ukraine to win Group E. I'm against Belgium there. Not really agreeing with the markets, sort of still propping up this Belgium team as with the sort of respect that they had when the golden generation was at their peak. I know that they still have some very talented players, surely, but Ukraine at 4-1 intrigues me in that Group E if they can get a result against Belgium. And then Group F most certainly looks pretty tilted in favor of Portugal there. So some general chalk expected in A, C, D, and F. But I think you could have an upset in E, and then B is just electric. Kind of intrigued to take a price on Croatia at plus 450 there, just because I don't think the gap between Spain, Italy, and Croatia is all that great, and they do have enough kind of experience, and it's just a little bit of the intangibles that make plus 450 an intriguing price in Group B. Perisic gonna go, we think, and I think ultimately that has me into Croatia at price in B. So B and E, I think, are your potential group uncertainty plays at price, and then for the outrights, Germany and France look like the value to me.
Okay, yeah, I think the thing to remember about international football is that it is a lot worse of a standard than club football, just because lack of continuity, and just the teams just aren't as coherent in terms of their strategy. Obviously, these players have spent a lot less time together than at club level, and so you often get. So that's why you just get a lot of kind of random results. You get, Croatia have made these really good runs in World Cups, largely because they've been able to find a level of coherence that has, evaded perhaps more talented teams. And that's why you get random results like Greece winning the Euros in 2004. And so I think there is a tendency to just kind of look at the squad lists and be like, oh, there's a lot of famous, really good players in one team. But it's like, well, do they actually play well together? Belgium have kind of been a poster for that in recent vintage, outside of a really good 2018 World Cup, where you look at the names and it looks awesome, but they just kind of lost their game style along the way. To me, the most interesting team in the tournament is Portugal. To your point, they have effectively a layup of a group in Group F. They're minus 250 to win the group. There should be no issues whatsoever getting out of it. And then the thing with Portugal is that they are loaded with an insane level of talent, where they could form like two different starting 11s that would have a chance to win the Euros, where their depth is insane. Their attacking talent between Bruno Fernandes and Vitinha in midfield, João Neves, the kind of phenom from Benfica, young kid. Up front, you have João Felix, Rafa Leao, who's maybe the best player in Serie A, Gonçalo Ramos, effectively as the starting striker now for PSG, and you have Cristiano Ronaldo, which is the wild card, where he is the ultimate, like, does he actually help you at this level, given that he offers absolutely nothing defensively? Still very clinical as an offensive player, but he makes it difficult to structure around. And the thing with this team is, like, this collection of players, they just haven't really played a lot together and been tested. They had a very easy qualification. They didn't play a lot of great teams on the way. They have new manager. So they are a wild card. They might be the most talented team in the whole tournament, and we just haven't seen them pitted up against really great opposition yet. So they would be the team that I'd probably adjust most quickly on. I'm with you, particularly with France being favored over England. I don't understand why England are favored to win the tournament. Head to head, I would certainly take France. Just think they're more talented and they're more proven. Don't really like Gareth Southgate that much as a manager. He's not particularly creative, particularly making in-game adjustments, which have often failed him. So, I would have France as the favorite here, and Portugal would be my team to watch.
Yeah, you know why England doesn't make sense? Because if they win Group C, which they almost certainly will, their round of their quarterfinal opponent would likely be whoever is the runner-up of Group B, which is the group of death: Spain, Italy, and Croatia. So you could have right away in the quarterfinals a very difficult test in Dusseldorf on July 6th. If you come through that, then you draw presumably France in the semifinals, and then you got to win presumably against Germany in the final. And those 3 matches alone, bang, bang, bang. I would expect that you could do, if you really do believe in this England team, I think you're going to do better than plus 350 across those 3 matches.
Yeah, there's just also like Kieran Trippier is going to play left back. It's not amazing. They're very injured in defense. They're hugely dependent on Declan Rice in midfield. Looks like Conor Gallagher is probably going to be the 3rd guy in that midfield next to Rice and Bellingham. Bellingham also quietly, no one talks about this because Real Madrid won the Champions League. Bellingham really tailed off in the second half of the season. He's dealing with a lot of knocks. He's played a ton of football over the past 12 months. So some question marks about England. Obviously, they could win it. They're very talented, but at price and just irrespective of price, I would take France head-to-head over them.
Yeah, do you think Market will give us a price on France in the semifinal, England v France?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it's a matchup that we just saw in the World Cup. And I felt like England kind of outplayed France in that was a quarterfinal, and just Harry Kane missed the penalty. But I thought England largely had the run of play there. But ultimately would expect that France, who are always kind of frustrating in these tournaments because they have a ton of attacking talent. It's just that Deschamps has been extremely defensive and they just like to play on the counter. I think they've solved some things, though, with like Antoine Griezmann playing in midfield kind of shaped their World Cup. And I thought for long stretches he was a better player than Mbappe during that World Cup until the final when Mbappe went full Super Saiyan and Griezmann didn't do a ton. But yeah, that will be interesting. I mean, that's going to be lined very closely. I think a lot just depends on what those teams have shown to that point. But yeah, even withstanding England having a better run of play for stretches of that World Cup quarterfinal, we're a couple of years removed from that. I think France's talent level is a bit higher, so we'll lean France there.
And it is home field advantage, not home pitch advantage.
It's definitely not home pitch advantage.
Right.
Home ground, home field.
Home ground.
I think home ground, home field. I think home field. HFA. Yeah.
Okay.
You tied me in knots by throwing this home. So
England and Germany. England going to be a small favorite against Germany in the final.
I mean, if it's on German soil, like German soil,
in Berlin,
their home pitch advantage might loom there. The one thing though is that Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham.
They do play in.
Yeah, but Bellingham had a lot of experience playing for Dortmund, and Harry Kane has gotten a chance to brush up on his German. So how much that matters when 2 of your 11 starting outfield players got that experience, I don't know. But that would be a very fun final and a great one for England to lose on penalties, such as their nature.
Yeah.
All right.
One real quick thought though. You mentioned you teased Portugal. They were the biggest winners, in my opinion, of the draw.
Yeah.
Their little subsection is just beautiful. Like they're basically going to have 2 warm-up matches before they go head-to-head in Germany, against Germany, likely in the semifinal.
Yep. And they are stacked. They're going to have guys like João Cancelo, who is, starting Champions League finals and stuff. Like he may not even crack the starting 11. They're going to have like João Felix as well. He may not. I don't think he will crack the starting 11. So, yeah, they are extremely deep in ultra talent, and they might have the highest upside of anyone. So that would be the team I'd be most intently watching their first match, and they should roll in that. All right, don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Crouch and Drew Dinsick, we'll see you soon.